Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. We're actually tossing out our usual agenda today because, well, we've got a massive mystery box to unpack right away. Today's source text takes us on this wild journey that honestly reads like a sci-fi thriller, but it's completely grounded in this profound intersection of acoustic physics, biology, and faith. We're looking at a story detailing a microscopic anomaly found deep inside ancient wood. We're going to look closely at the data, the arguments, and just the sheer wonder of what this text proposes. So get comfortable because this is going to be quite the ride. Okay, let's dive into this. Can a tree record the sound of its surroundings for 1,400 years? I mean, really think about that for a second. This is the central mind-bending premise of our source text. It brings together acoustic physics, dendrochronology, the science of dating tree rings, and deeply held religious history. The text basically asks us to imagine if the physical cells of a plant could act almost like a microscopic audio recorder, silently capturing the ambient frequencies of the world centuries ago. Now, to understand this narrative, we need to meet the two main figures from the text. On one side, we have Dr. Zeynep El-Kurdi. She's a lead researcher at a dendrochronology center in Anatolia, Turkey, and she was curious if the olive tree, which is specifically sworn by in the Quranic Surah At-Tin, might carry some sort of divine signature. And on the flip side, we have her colleague, Dr. Hans Schmidt, who represents, let's say, strict scientific materialism. To him, tree rings reflect temperature and rainfall. End of story. There's no place for the Quran in them. And this perfectly sets up the core conflict of our explainer, this massive clash between established botanical science and a completely radical new hypothesis. Which brings us to Section 1, the 1,400-year-old mystery. Let's see how this all started. So, our story begins with Dr. Zeynep discovering a living, ancient olive tree near Mardin, Turkey. According to the source, radiocarbon dating placed the tree's age at roughly 1,400 years, taking us back to around 570 AD. Now, what's really interesting here is the biology. When Zeynep used polarized light microscopy on a core sample, she found a crazy physical anomaly in that specific 570 AD ring. Normally, the cellulose microfibril angle, or MFA, in a tree ring fluctuates randomly between 15 and 20 degrees. It's totally chaotic. But for the 570 AD ring of this tree, the source text claims the MFA was exactly 25 degrees. It wasn't random at all. It was a highly organized crystal structure. Something had systematically altered the fundamental building blocks of the tree that exact year. And here is where it gets really fascinating. The text describes how Zeynep mapped this anomalous data using X-ray diffraction. As she traced the highly organized cellulose crystals, they formed a very specific spiral angle. Visually, these microscopic curves perfectly mimicked the Arabic letters Ba and Sin. Together, they spelled out Bismillah, the phrase meaning in the name of Allah. The source portrays this as a literal microscopic engraving of the phrase, etched right into the structural fibers of this 1,400-year-old wood. Just incredible. Moving on to Section 2, Hans versus the hypothesis, because as you can imagine, this caused quite a stir. Claiming you found Arabic text naturally growing inside cellulose is a massive scientific flex. So Hans pushes back, and he pushes back hard. He essentially accuses Zeynep of pareidolia, which, is that thing our brains do where we see faces in clouds or meaningful patterns in random noise. He demands scientific rigor, telling her she's just seeing what she desperately wants to see. But to his credit, Hans issues a challenge. He says, hey, if you can find this exact pattern in another tree, I'll believe it. So Hans goes out and runs his control tests. He draws a core from another old olive tree in Mardin, this one 800 years old. He scans it, and it's completely random cellulose. Nothing. Then he tests 10 more olive trees of all different ages. Again, entirely random. The anomaly was impossibly isolated. Only the original 1,400-year-old Mardin tree, and exclusively within its 570 AD ring, contained these organized Bismillah crystals. The text uses this data to systematically rule out any kind of random environmental fluke. So the real question is, how do these isolated events connect? Well, Zeynep forms this radical hypothesis based on the timeline. According to the source, 570 AD in Arabia is the birth year of the Prophet Muhammad, a time when the word Bismillah is spoken, generating an acoustic pressure wave. Concurrently, hundreds of miles away in Anatolia, this specific olive tree is in its highly sensitive biological phase, actively forming its primary cell wall. Zeynep hypothesizes that this acoustic energy literally traveled through the atmosphere and physically imprinted itself upon the soft-forming cells of the tree. All right, Section 3. Acoustic dendrochronology born. Let's see how they tried to prove this in the lab. If sound truly altered the cellulose back then, Zeynep reasoned she should be able to make it happen again today. In doing so, she basically invents a brand new scientific field, which the text calls acoustic dendrochronology. In simple terms, this is the study of how specific phonetic frequencies, the actual physical sound waves of spoken words, can permanently alter the microfibril angle of a tree's cell walls. But the catch is, it only works if the tree is actively in its growth formation phase. It's literally treating a tree like a slow-moving biological vinyl record. To test this out, the text details Zainab's modern lab experiment, and it's brilliant. First, she takes a 10-year-old olive sapling and puts it in a perfectly controlled sound chamber. Second, she plays an audio recitation of Bismillah for just 5 minutes every single day. Third, she lets the tree grow and form new cell walls for 6 months under these exact conditions. Finally, she extracts a core sample and scans it. And the result? The source claims she found the exact same abnormal cellulose orientation, clearly bearing the imprint of the letter seen. And this brilliantly illustrates that we're not talking about magic here. It's pure physics. Using a computational fluid dynamics model, Zainab tracked the sound itself. The model shows that the 250 Hz frequency, which specifically comes from pronouncing the Arabic letter ba, penetrates the tree and reaches the supersensitive cambium layer. Right there, the sound waves hit a resonant frequency with the hydrogen bonds inside the cellulose. This microresonance permanently twists the microfibril angle by 5 to 10 degrees, effectively locking the phonetic frequency into the tree's physical structure forever. Finally, we reach section 4, the tree's final witness. Let's look at the climactic discovery that changes everything. So Zainab decides to take the cellulose orientation data from that original 570 AD ring and run it through 3D tomography. And guys, according to the text, this wasn't just some flat two-dimensional imprint. The 3D scan revealed a layered spectral hologram. It didn't just spell Bismillah. Layered deep within the structure was the faint silhouette of the actual Quranic oath from Surah At-Tin, the oath of the fig and the olive. The tree, quite literally according to the source, was holding the physical essence of the verse within its rings. When Dr. Han sees this 3D hologram, his entire worldview completely shatters. For 30 years, this man believed rings only told of rainfall, but faced with this overwhelming data, his character arc is complete. He looks at this perfect spelling, maintained against literally all odds of chemistry for over a millennium, and the strict materialist admits defeat. He acknowledges that this absolutely cannot be a random chemical fluke. The evidence before him forces a profound paradigm shift. The whole thing culminates at an international conference. Zainab is up there, projecting her findings onto the massive screen. She overlays the X-ray diffraction pattern of the ancient 570 AD tree ring directly on top of a perfectly calculated computer-generated model of how cellulose would align to spell Bismillah. And the match percentage? 99.9%. I mean, wow. The statistic is the ultimate mic drop moment of the source text, mathematically validating this incredible acoustic cellulose connection. During that same presentation, Dr. Zainab delivers this incredibly poetic conclusion. She says, "It is written with a pen whose ink was sound, and paper was cellulose." Actually, just pause and think about that. It's just an absolutely beautiful way to put it, capturing the massive philosophical weight of what this explainer has covered. It suggests that nature isn't just passively sitting there. It's this active living canvas, silently recording the invisible energies and profound phonetic vibrations of the world around it. So what's the legacy of this discovery as outlined by the text? Well, Hans actually went back to the lab and replicated Zainab's experiment himself on a 3-year-old sapling, and he got the exact same Bismillah imprint. His final takeaway was super profound. He concluded that the tree doesn't just hear sound, it actively recognizes the creator of the sound. Today, their facility has been officially renamed the At-Tin Dendroacoustic Research Center, and importantly, their daily acoustic tests with Quranic recitations continue to produce those identical, perfect crystallographic prints day in and day out. We have covered some truly incredible ground today, from microscopic cellulose angles to 1,400-year-old acoustic shockwaves. Our source text leaves us standing at this awe-inspiring intersection of rigorous science and deep faith. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If every cell of the olive tree silently records the sounds of creation, what else is nature whispering that we simply haven't learned to hear yet? Definitely something to think about the next time you sit under the shade of a tree. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep looking closely at the world around you.